Art Chat is made possible by the support of the Artistic Harmonies Association. Create your next aha experience with us. Hi everyone, welcome to Art Chat. I'm your host, Linda Riesenberg-Fissler. Before we get into the interview with Carey, who is head of content development at Artwork Archive, I just wanted to invite you to our next Chat, Create, and Cocktails party. It is on February 15th on Zoom. For those watching the video, you can use the QR code above to register. You can also register by visiting the Artistic Harmonies ASSOC.com website. Go to the Chat, Create, and Cocktails Party link and register through that link there. There also will be something on the blog that you can register from as well. We had about 65 folks register for the one in January. We're hoping we get just as many folks to register for this one. It's a fun little time. Jean Peterson will be my co-host, and Jean will be doing some demos, and I'll be doing some demos as well. If you want to watch this on demand, if you're overseas or for whatever reason, not available on the 15th, please go ahead and register for the event. The only people that will receive a link to view the video on demand are those who register for the event. So grab your favorite cocktail and join us for Chat, Create, and Cocktails. You can also choose your favorite mocktail. So looking forward to seeing everybody there. These are fun little events. You're more than welcome to paint along as well. We may ask you to show us what you're painting, and you don't have to if you don't want to, but we would love to see what you're working on as well. So February 15th, at 7 p.m. Eastern U.S. time. So now we're going to go into the conversation that I had with Carey, who is the head of content development at Artwork Archive. And we're going to talk about why you should be blogging and the content you should have in your blog and how that attracts traffic to your website. Katie will also talk to us about how your blog could be used for art marketing as a pillar of content development. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Art Chat. I'm your host, Linda Riesenberg-Fissler, and today I have Carey with me from Artwork Archive. Hi, Katie. Welcome.
Hi, Linda. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, this is going to be an interesting and informational art chat for, I think, a lot of artists because, you know, one thing that we're going to talk about is content development, and I know that you do a lot of that with your team. You're head of content development at Artwork Archive. So what I'd like to really get into is, and I am probably not the only artist that has ever done this, but I have like 3 blogs and I'm great when I really start up, but then keeping them going, it's like, who's going to be interested in what and how to, what's the audience? So start off first and talk about how content development happened with Artwork Archive, and was it narrowly focused and then you opened your focus more as you learned more about your business audience, so to speak? So talk a little bit to that, and then we'll go into some other topics.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's such a broad topic, so I'm glad that we can start here. We started, we are an art inventory platform first, but then a big part of our business is using the blog and content for education and drawing people in and telling them about our platform. So we've started about 10 years ago, also as a blog, and now as content develops with TikTok and Facebook and social and Facebook Live and Instagram Live, podcasts like this, of course, we've developed over that, but we still love blog content because it's there forever. I would say we have tested a lot of topics in the past, and we use a lot of metrics to figure out what people are interested in. And then we also have kind of more qualitative feedback coming from users and readers about, oh, I'm really interested in this, or I have just their reactions to articles or comments. And we're so lucky to have such an engaged community. So we get to really have our finger on the pulse about what people are interested in, and then also ask them, because we want to be researching and having those conversations, which is one of the benefits of content. You get to make genuine relationships like this. This is why I'm talking to you. It's kind of snowballs on itself.
Yeah, it does. And I've actually the whole reason why I have Katie on this our chat is, one, to help us as artists blog better. One of the things that Katie and I have talked about via email is kind of building on one another's blogs without, stepping on any toes, if you will, because you do have to watch out for that. It doesn't, there's this whole thing, like if I just take this blog and plagiarize it and post it out here, that looks bad for both sides of that post, if you will. So, naturally we don't want to do that. But one of the things that I have found in reading the blogs out at Artwork Archive is just how helpful they are, and very, targeted to artists, and what and how they should, suggestions on how they should be running their business and things like that. And I think that that's great. It's wonderful. And it's actually gotten to the point where Katie does this so well. I'm like, no, I'm not going to touch this. I'm just going to say, go over and look at their blog. So congratulations on that, because I know that takes a lot of hard work.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we have such a great team behind us that's growing, but thank you so much. And I think we just try to, I think partnerships are so important, like this, to spread out where you're sharing that information. And we do just try to, I guess at a basic level, just answer questions like,
Right.
what would you be searching for, and how can we help answer that question for you, and do the research and help you out with that time. So I guess it's like, the partnerships, and then trying to get ahead of what people might be thinking about and asking, because the internet's where we go to ask all our questions, right? Like,
Right.
we're like, how do I fix my stairs, which I'm doing right now, or paint, how do I get a certain technique in an oil painting, or vent my studio? Like, that's where we go to answer all of our questions. So, that's where we kind of drive from.
Right. Yeah, there's a number of, while they're very helpful and informative pieces on things, is from, applying for grants, or here are the grants that are available, or here's the upcoming opportunity for artists. And then you also highlight and spotlight, if you will, artists and what they're doing and how they're different from other artists. So I'm assuming that comes from the people who are on your platform, your Artwork Archive platform, and someone decides, or how does that work? Let's just put it that way, because I know there's probably a number of artists that are like, oh wow, how do I get that coverage?
Yeah, it's a question we get a lot. And we have on Artwork Archive, for those who aren't familiar, a public profile, and it is optional. So by default, we're an inventory platform, so all of your information is private. But then if you choose to have this optional feature, which is a public profile, you can display any number of works and any information that you would like about it. And it's a great way to connect with collectors and potential buyers, and get your work out there on another platform. It's kind of like a mini website. And so another great way for content, so I was thinking about this before we were chatting, and connecting with other people, is then we will highlight and make partnerships, or like small partnerships, with people who we just love their work. But what we do look for is great photos. First and foremost, I think the way you present your work is all that people can tell about from the internet. Like, we're not in your studio, we can't see it in person. So how you present it is how it's going to be both remembered and seen from outsiders who don't know you. So we look for great photos, cohesive body of work. We look for a variety of work. So we're always looking for different mediums. So we have a lot of painters, but painters one week, sculptors, woodworkers, installation artists. So we like to have a big variety of both different mediums, and different artistic backgrounds as well, and different personal backgrounds, so that we're able to show. And I think that's one of the most exciting things about our platform is we have so many different artists, and they're all archiving their work, and we get to see such a wide variety of artwork that is detailing this moment right now. And it's just so cool to see and be able to disseminate that information. Whereas, just even 20 years ago, it was so kind of on a high tower. Museums were in charge of doing that. And now everyone has that ability with a platform like Artwork Archive or any other platform on the internet to show their artwork and archive it and give the information and really define art right now and define art history right now.
Yeah. One of the things that I do like about Artwork Archive, I've actually taken my gallery off of my website and will be using Artwork Archive to show my work on the web. And it's because it's so protected from bots and other, stealing and, and all of that other stuff that comes with having it out there. You have a group of coders or whatever you want to call them, that developers that are actually, making sure that things are secure in Artwork Archive. And I appreciate that. That's one of the reasons why I took my gallery down, is because, so many people I actually had one person come up and say to me, I just printed out the picture of this, painting, and I framed it and put it on my wall.
Oh no.
And I was just like, you realize you're talking to the artist, right? And they're like,
No.
oh no, they'll never find out. I'm like, no, I'm the artist that you just did this to.
No.
Yeah. So, it's always been one of these things where it's like, do I, not showing your work on the internet, you can't not do that, because that's where some of our sales come from. And then, getting exposure on your work and things like that. So it's always a double-edged sword. And one of the things that I liked, we had Justin on, who you work with, and he was talking about the security of Artwork Archive and how that they work on that very, very, it's like top priority, because of some of your clients require that.
Yeah, it is one of our main priorities. So we do a lot to protect images, downside images. So you can, my favorite things is that you can store your highest resolution image. So if you want to print it out, that's on your record. But then if you do choose, which again is optional, you can choose to have all your work private. And no one will ever see it. But if you do want to have it be seen, it will automatically be downsized. Like you can't download it right there. Of course, there are other ways to, maybe like someone could share it or screenshot it, but they won't be able to
get a high resolution.
Print it.
Yes.
And
if they do, you probably don't want your name on it anyway.
So.
But yeah, I mean, that was one of the really neat things that I like about it. So let's get back to content development a little bit, since we talked a little bit about Artwork Archive. And by the way, give me the URL so that folks, if they're curious while they're listening, can go have a look at your website.
Yeah, it's just artworkarchive.com.
Yeah, I figured that's what it was, but thought I'd have you say it instead of me. So content development, how do you approach writing the blog? I mean, I'm an artist, I'm just getting started. People tell me I should have a blog because it drives people to my website. It gives me something to post about. So give us some, I don't know, the 5 W's or whatever of how we do this. Who should we be thinking about while we're writing this? Those kind of steps, if we can.
Sure. Yeah, I would say it's a little bit different for a company versus an individual artist on how you would start approaching and thinking about who you're writing for, but there's a lot of similarities. So if you're an individual artist, I'm also an individual artist, so it's not a big leap to get there. So if I was writing my own individual blog, I would be thinking about questions, or I always like to start with a pillar of why I'm doing what I'm doing. So for us, it's education. So we like to have everything we do is for education, whether that's about the platform or art business. And so our 2 leading pillars would be art business and education. And so does it fit those pillars? But it can be anything else. So say I'm a ceramic artist, which I am. Could it be education around ceramic arts? Because education helps your collectors, but then you also get new people. And if you're teaching classes, maybe that's what you want to be doing. So I would have those pillars in mind, like what are you trying to attract? And what are you just interested in talking about? I think that's also really important, because as you said, the momentum is going to slow if you don't like talking about the thing that you're talking about. So if you're very interested in glaze chemistry and you want to talk about glaze chemistry for all of that, like, you're going to find an audience. Like, there's an audience for everything. So I would say those would be my biggest 3 pillars is, choose something that you're super interested in that's related to your work. So that could be certain types of paint or education around that, or it could be how you do it. But there's, a lot of people have like a funny one, or like the comedy section or anything. I tend to think education works really well because people are searching again for how to do stuff, and you can both establish yourself as a credible artist and show your work as an example. And it's just a way to more genuinely, I think, or authentically share what you're currently doing. I know a lot of artists, I talk to a lot of artists that are uncomfortable selling their work or marketing their work. They just want to paint or they want to just make work. And agreed,
We
You
all like to stay in our creative zone.
Yes. But like, how can you talk about the things that you're doing and have that be working for you to sell? Like, and then occasionally talk about what you have available. And it's a treat, like it should, like, people are excited then to see it because they know what went into it. They know what was behind it. They know you and your voice, and they're going to be excited when you offer up your newest painting. Like, it's going to go like that.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, we did talk about the slowing momentum, or, and I always try to tell folks to step back, that if you were standing there talking to a person who's interested in your work, may not be a collector, it may just be somebody that's interested in learning how to paint or learning how to make, do ceramics or glaze ceramics, or, what happens when I do this type of question. And that's great because you make that connection with them. But I always sit there and go, well, I'm going to write another blog about how to dry brush on a certain color. I wonder how many people are, tired of hearing about this. So there's only so many of those types of posts that we can make. Do we need to worry about that? Like, if we do too much of the same thing, or do we have to come up with a strategy that says, okay, on this month, I'm going to work on this, and then 6 months from now, I can repeat that? Is there some kind of frequency that we should be thinking about?
That's a good question. And I'll tell you, I guess, our strategy and see if that applies to you.
We have a secret coming up here.
Well, no, it's a very basic sales funnel strategy. So having a mix of kind of a top funnel sales, if you know a sales funnel, you want to be having the most broad topics at the top, then a middle topic, and then the bottom of the funnel topic, which is related to most specifically what you're selling. So a top end funnel is interesting to everyone. So that's going to get you clicks. It's going to get you traffic. It's going to get attention, but it might not sell. But you're going to get people to follow in. You're going to get that traffic that you're interested in. So I like to always have a mix of all 3 going. So I would say, like, our top end of the funnel is like, people love art resources and things like that. And in the middle, I'm not to give away too many business secrets.
No,
yeah, it's a very classic selling strategy to have a mix of content that applies to both a wide range and a small range of people. So then you get the people who might just want to be there for the free resources, but then, you can also talk to people who are interested in art business then, or you get their attention and then they're like, oh yeah, actually I want to talk about sales or art galleries, which might be even a smaller audience at first. And there's a lot of tools online that you can look to see how many people are searching certain terms, and the volume of search and how competitive that word is. But again, this is for, like, as an individual, I might not think about it that broadly, but that is one way to think about content.
Yeah, but we should think about it that broadly, because honestly, we're running a business. So, most major blogs or blogs that people follow typically are successful ones, at least I think. And you can say I'm wrong, are usually done by businesses and people like yourself who are hired in to make that content for that company. Like you said, you're an artist as well. So,
Mhm.
I'm going to go out and see if Katie has a blog on her website.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't. I should, but I started working at Artwork Archive about 7 years ago now, and I'm just starting, like, I went all in. And so I kind of put my individual art practice aside for a little bit, and I
Mhm.
just got a new studio, and then COVID happened. So I just got a new studio, and
Yeah.
I'm ramping it back up. But yeah, I would probably do the same thing. I think about it all the time. Like,
Yeah.
what kind of videos would I make? What kind of TikToks or that would I make for my own practice?
Right. Yeah. And that's, yeah, I'm not harping on it. It's our own fault that we don't do our blogs. Nobody's going to do it for us as artists. So yeah, so it's a matter of, think of it as one more currency that you can use to get exposure, to get people interested in what you're doing, who could possibly want to be, taught some of these things. So you can run a workshop. You start to get that following that you can. I mean, we have with Art Chat and talking about the different things that we're doing. As far as this is concerned, this is basically a voice blog, so we have followers, international followers around the world that listen to us and, are interested in the content that I put out. So, maybe I should stop, like, it's okay, Linda, you're a writer too, as well as an artist, but it's okay that you don't do a blog. You've got, the podcast. And then we also have the new things, which we would love to have you join us, is the Art Chat, our Chat Create and Cocktails fun painting party event that we're doing on Zoom. So, and it doesn't have to be painting. You can do whatever you want, be creative as you want. But, there's always, I guess what I'm trying to say is it should be something, the content development that you're doing, the blogging that you're doing, the interest that you're doing should be something that you're excited about and have fun doing. It may not be an artist. I happen to like writing. I've written novels, so writing isn't that hard for me, but it might be for somebody else. So like you said, you mentioned the videos, maybe just turning your phone on and doing a quick video and this is how I do this, and put it out on TikTok or put it out on Instagram. And we've got a whole different way of talking about content development, don't we?
Right. Yeah. And, we are human, and also making art is our main, 70% of our time, hopefully,
Right.
So there's only so much time that you can put into your content. So deciding which one feels the best. Some people love making videos. Some people don't want to show their face on a video and it's uncomfortable for them and they'd rather write. And there are pluses to both, and deciding what you can keep up with and feel good about, I think, is first and foremost where you should start. So if you are a good writer and you want to write a blog, yes, write that blog, and that's going to be searchable forever. If you like making short videos and you have a really interesting process, so you can paint or you can show you're throwing on a wheel, show that and have a TikTok or Instagram where you're able to show that. You don't always have to show your face either. It's not something I technically love doing. I'm doing it for you.
Oh, thank you. I don't know why. You're a star.
Yeah. So I would say, it's like, but choose one that that you would feel excited about waking up and doing.
And sometimes even, I mean, everybody has a fear of failing, but like, let's say you're throwing on a wheel. I mean, I could see me doing this, like the throwing on the wheel, and then all of a sudden everything caves in, and it's like, oh, well, it's the other day I was painting and I was live on Facebook just for folks who wanted to tune in and just kind of watch what I was doing. So I wasn't really instructing. I wasn't really talking. And about halfway through, the painting, full of thick oil paint, falls off the easel and hits my new blue jeans that I just bought in the leg. And I'm like, you hear a nice cuss word. It was actually a minor one because I knew I was on, but it wasn't a big one. But all of a sudden you hear me say this cuss word and the video disappears. I have had more people comment about, well, at least I know you're human,
Right.
Yeah. So there's always, don't don't out necessarily, I could have cut that out,
Yeah,
or
but
something,
it's
but I
so great,
didn't.
and I think those are the moments that it's like, you get those, and people want to, especially because we're getting more and more content in our daily lives, like, all the time, and we're being fed so much advertising. It's like,
Continuously, yeah.
oh, what a fresh, like, breath of fresh air to see someone make an error and, like, be like, "Oh, you're human, and also it's okay,"
Yeah,
and
we all can use
relate
some
to that.
laughs. Yeah, we all
Yeah,
can use some laughs, as long as it isn't anything major like falling or something down, you
yeah,
yourself, not the painting. But yeah, so I
yeah,
mean, I kind of laugh at it now, but at the time I was like, oh my God, there goes all my paint. The painting's ruined, so you have that minute of, oh my God, what happened? And then,
yeah,
and then you just kind of sit there and look at it from the other side and say, well, that was pretty funny. So
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
so
it's funny, and it's also, I feel like there are all these teaching moments, and I would say, a lot of content that we've put out or I've worked on has, the lessons learned from mistakes are always popular because everyone makes mistakes and everyone wants to learn from other people's mistakes before they do them, or just know that they also can make them and be successful.
yes, absolutely. So let's go in a little. We talked a little bit about art education, as content development. Let's start talking, and content development kind of automatically leads you into art marketing, right?
Mhm.
So let's talk a little bit about art marketing in general, and also using art education as a marketing tool. So it's probably not very different than what we're talking about with content development, because we're talking about putting ourselves out there, and it's the
Mhm.
same way with art marketing, right?
Yeah, I think we've touched a lot on some of the points about art marketing in terms of um, how to get it out there. So maybe I should have been talking more about art, like making the content before.
Either way, we could go either way. It's
Okay.
fine. So yeah, so we were talking more about it being, as an exposure for you, as a way to get
Mhm.
people interested in the artist, making it easier for them to get to know you, so to speak.
Yeah.
So let's get back. You're probably right. We've been talking a little bit about that a lot, but let's talk about actual content development. What works
Yeah.
for our artwork archive? I notice your postings on Facebook, for example, where you have the slides that you create, and then you say, for more in depth, go to this link, which takes them to your blog.
Mhm.
So let's talk a little bit more about the actual content development. What do you see actually works for a good post that gets a lot of response for you?
Yeah, I would say, it's in that niche of art business topics, and I would say less is usually more. If there's a clear message, a question, something that people can latch onto, and we try to just make it useful. So I would say that we have a mix of, so in terms of developing content, we have a mix of what we would call product posts about our platform, posts about art business, like how to's,
Mhm.
and kind of inspirational posts, then something that kind of gets at your feelings. So we all have a lot of feelings here. And then how do we, synthesize those feelings and talk about them with other people?
Mhm.
Um, and I would categorize that this as the same as inspiration. So keep going and connect with other people. And I think that would be it. So then we do those posts from, so we have an article that we have written, which is the great part about a blog, going back to blogs. You can repurpose content all the time.
Mm.
And I highly recommend it because you can remix content and have a great video or slideshow in Instagram based on a post. I think you should be driving people back to your site, which is why we do what we do. But yeah, I would say, like, you can remix content. You don't always have to be coming up with a brilliant idea. So I think that's like another thing. I think it's applicable to making art and making content. Like, you don't have to be brilliant every 5 seconds. Like
Right.
you've made something, see how it resonates, and then remix it and put it into a popular trending video on Instagram, or make the slides and then see how that does, and then go from there.
Right. So let's go all the way down to writing a blog post.
Mhm.
Okay. So I took some journalism classes and things like that. And there's always the who, what, when, where, and why,
Mhm.
the 5 W's. So you just kind of like ask yourself those questions when you start writing a blog post, for example.
Mhm.
That those same 5 questions actually go into making a short video.
Mhm.
Right. So is that how you kind of approach it? More like, I'm reporting on this particular topic that I'm doing, or is it just like, oh, here's some great information for an artist and we'll just put it out, this way in a couple paragraphs and get it done?
Yeah, I would say it's a little bit different than traditional journalism. I also was a journalism um, student, and worked for traditional media for a bit
Mhm.
before Artwork Archive. But I would say like writing for the web and social media content is a bit different than, in a lead, intro, story on a traditional uh, article in
Mhm.
a newspaper. So I would say that, we try to disseminate the major points because our attention spans are so
Short.
short. Yeah. So we have,
Unfortunately.
yeah. So we have, 10 to 30 seconds to capture someone's attention, and they're not reading a 3,000 word, usually not reading a
Right.
3,000 word essay. So, try to get the main point out first and then see what goes from there. We have so many people who only read the first slide or something like that. But how do you get that information out first? I think that's what we try to come up with, some main points, and then build in a story for those who are going to read, which appreciate everyone who actually does.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting too, because, we were talking about our short attention spans, and I think they're actually getting shorter and shorter, especially when we start looking at how drama seems to be driving everything, including even weather reports. It's like when we have to start pumping up weather reports with drama, we have to really start talking about what's going on with our attention span. That was my personal comment. That's not
Mhm.
reflective on anyone else, but it does seem like, since all of the different reality type of televisions and that has just seeped into everything. So, is there something that drives us, or should drive us, either making videos or doing blog posts or anything, that we should take that in mind? Or do we just kind of say, no, we're not here to drive drama. We're here to help people, and we want to be, helpful and instructive and
No,
informational.
I'm sure that drama would get you a lot of clicks, and a lot of attention. But I always think that having your end goal in mind, which is, telling people about your artwork, and hopefully selling your artwork, is the main goal, which attention doesn't equal sales.
Mhm.
So I would say that no, don't buy into it. I always am for steady growth and authentic communication and growth through that. And I think that you will find that you have long-term customers and true customers and authentic relationships for the length of time. So I would not buy into anything like that, or any like cheap gimmicks, or like buying followers or anything like that, because that attention does not equal um, business growth or art business growth.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. And thought it would be kind of interesting to get because there's a big age difference here. So I wanted to hear from someone younger than me, that if that's what's driving this thing. So it was really helpful to hear from you as well, is that you want these folks hanging around over a long time. So you want part of building that relationship doesn't include, all the dramatics that you can think of, or have that drive. Now, how can I make somebody, look at me for 5 seconds? Well, that lasts for 5 seconds. Are they going to,
Right.
if you want to continue the drama, which obviously takes too much energy. You should be putting
Yeah.
energy like that into your painting, into your ceramics, into writing your books, whatever, art creativeness that you want to do. That takes enough energy on its own. We don't need to to create another space that needs just as much energy out there.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think people can see through it. So I think they can see through it, and I don't think going viral for the sake of going viral is a long-term strategy for anyone.
Yeah. And I mean, just let's look at this. When we start talking dramatics and things like that, one artist that kind of jumps in my mind is Banksy. But I've
Mhm.
loved everything that he or she has done through the thing. I mean, he or she was in Ukraine. They did the thing with the auction. So they're still, that's what they're doing on a regular basis. So that following that person, following Banksy, is different. So everybody kind of sits there for a second, sits back and says, okay, what's he going to come up with next? The
Mm.
pressure of that alone would drive
Mhm.
me crazy. So not doing that. But there is one instance where, he has actually kept up, what he or she is doing. And
Mhm.
then there's this whole who are they persona that's with it. So, okay, that's good
Yeah.
for him or her. Don't need to be going there.
Yeah.
That's not where my interest is. But it is interesting to see those two different dynamics, if you will.
Mhm. I think there's ways to do it if it's directly related to what you're
Yeah.
doing, and you're struck by that. Yeah, like I think so. But we have a friend here who wrote a book, and like they, or if you put a book in like make a treasure hunt, or make a book and like make a kind of event around it, or you put
Mhm.
it in a Barnes and Noble and see that, and then there's a frenzy around it, but it's related directly to the book that you just wrote.
Yeah.
Or something like that. I think it's a little bit different
I
than,
think
I
it's
guess, some of
different.
the other things I'm thinking about.
Yeah, there's a big difference between drama and adventurism.
Yeah.
So yeah, thinking of it that way. I mean, we're following his adventure, Banksy's
Mhm.
adventure. We're not pulled in. He's not really pulling in drama. He's just providing a path and where will I show up next type of
Yeah.
adventure. So, and then the mystique around that is, who is this person? Who is Banksy? Is
Mhm.
always comes back. So,
Mhm.
yeah, it's a big difference between the
Mhm.
two. So,
Mhm.
so let's talk a little bit about art grants
Mhm.
and what it's looking for. So we talked a little bit about this before I turned the recording on. So talk a little bit about how you got into the art grants, and what brought all this knowledge to you.
Yeah, so it's something that comes up a lot. As part of our content, we put out a lot of art resources, which include art grants or art residencies as a roundup. And not so we're not providing most of them, but it's a great resource. We spend a lot of time curating the best grants and art opportunities that we can find for artists, so that they don't have to spend time searching the web for ones that have like a low entry fee or things like that. And people really love it. And so at the beginning of 2020, at the beginning of 2020, during COVID, we were thinking of ways that we can help further support the art community. And we started an art grant that was free to apply for, and that had, I think it was 2,500, $2,500 small grants for artists
Wow.
making work that were making an impact on their communities. So that could be from, any kind of theme, but that was community minded. And we got so many applications. It was great. And so I ended up being part of the jury and working with the jury on that opportunity. And I would say, we get these questions all the time. I would say, the same thing that with the featured artist is like photos. And then especially with art grants, people are always asking. So I would say my top 3 tips for that would be really reading the prospectus and reading what people are looking for, because it's usually very specific, and you don't want to waste your time applying for something if it's not the right fit. I know it can be, you can want a stretch goal, but also finding and spending a little more time finding something that's a better fit will help you in the long term. And then writing clearly about how your specific work fits that grant, I think just helps the jury get to a decision, and see more clearly. Because they're also, we talking about attention span, both online, and then also you only have so much time to capture the attention and convince a jury. If there are thousands of applications. So they're not spending 10 minutes on each application. It's often a minute before going to a separate shortlisted pool. So I would say getting to the point about why your project is there and great photos, top two.
Right. Yeah, exactly. There's a number of different art competitions that are out there, and I had talked to a few people who have judged those before, and it's like, if you don't send me XYZ in your painting, no frames, has to be 72 DPI, it has to do this, et cetera. The first culling that doesn't even happen for a judge is usually done by the person that's putting on the competition, where they just say, didn't do that, and they kick you out.
Missing you again.
Yeah. I could tell it you froze up. So
okay, you cut out for a second again.
Yeah. I don't know what my husband's doing on the internet, but
okay, sorry. I'm like not sure if it was mine. I'm trying to check my connection.
Yeah. Okay. So, there's somebody there that will cull through the majority large pool before it could possibly even get to the actual judges or the jury for them to review, because they haven't followed exactly what they asked them to do to submit something. So I'm assuming it grants work the same way based on what your comments were. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, just at the most basic, making sure you are submitting the right amount of works and it's on theme and you filled out all the necessary fields. If you didn't do that, someone's going through and just knocking those out.
Right.
So there's not time for, if you have thousands of applications, unfortunately. But if if there's money on the line, they're looking for someone who can follow through with the projects at hand. So I know people always are upset with how much time it takes to apply, which was why I'm saying apply to only the ones you think you
really align
with fit for, because you're going to put in the time and fill it out correctly.
Right. Yeah. So that it really is interesting. I mean, you can almost think of it as a job interview, because you wouldn't walk into a job interview that you're not qualified for. So why are you submitting to competitions or to art grants that you're not qualified for? It's kind of the same type of way to think about it. So, I think we pretty much touched on everything that we talked about. Is there anything that you want to add, like that maybe organization or around growing an art business that we haven't touched on that you like to add?
I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, I always think that being organized, it's the foundation of our platform and what I've focused a lot of my time on for the last 7 or so years personally, and then our business for about 10 years. So being organized, and I would say like on Artwork Archive, and I would say everyone come check us out, and we're happy to talk with you about more how to do that for yourself. But yeah, staying organized and getting ahead of it before it really becomes a need is something we always try to instill in new artists. So like having the information at hand, not wasting time, treating it like a business from the start is just going to help you in the long run.
Right. One of the things that Artistic Harmonies Association is actually using Artwork Archive for some of the purposes of what we see coming down the road and what we're going to try to do, which I'm not in a position to talk about on this art chat, but it's really opened my eyes to what I should have been doing 10 years ago, 20 years ago. I mean, I've been painting for 30 years, I have 30 years worth of photos around here on different discs and everything. Some which has sold, some which I've actually torn up because they didn't meet my higher standard now 30 years later. And, it would have been just so much easier if I had had something like Artwork Archive back then and gotten the habit of putting in the new paintings as soon as I'm done working on them. And Justin went into, how the whole platform started with, I think it was John's mother, who was an artist. And, so being organized, as Katie has said, and showing your prospective collector that you are organized just comes back and tells them how much more a professional you are with that extra step of organizing your work and having it all in one place that they can go to and see, and you can go to and show them what you're doing versus, well, I know the painting's in my studio somewhere, let me go try and find it. So interesting from that standpoint too. I guess that's pretty much it. Anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. Just thank you so much for having me today. And it was so nice to chat with you.
Yeah, so it was great to meet you. I know we did a lot of emails back and forth, but keep in touch. Thanks again, Katie, for being on our chat.
Thank you.
Art Chat is made possible by the support of the Artistics Harmonies Association. Create your next aha experience with us.